Hi everyone, we're just about to start. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can see the chat box at the side of your screen and you can hear me, can you just put yes or no? And then we'll let a few more people dial in and we'll start. Fantastic. Okay, you should be able to see my screen hopefully as well. Fantastic. So, okay, I think what we'll do is we will start, and then as more people join, they can join as we go along. So, hi everyone, my name's Laura Hill. I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer for University of Liverpool Management School, and I'll be helping to co-host this webinar today on careers in digital marketing. So before we get started and I introduce you to our two speakers, Tim and Alex, I'm just going to go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's session. So hopefully you'll see something that looks a little bit like this in the top right hand corner of your screen. So to view the full control panel, all you need to do is just click on the small orange arrow at the top, and then hopefully you'll see a larger fully formed control panel which is going to help you participate in today's session. You're all listening in using your computer or laptop's speaker system by default, so you're probably all going to be using headphones. If you do prefer to use the mobile phone, you can just select telephone in the audio pane and dial in using the number provided. If you do have any problems with sound or any problems at all during the session, please just let me know using the chat box, which will be displayed in a little questions panel. You will have opportunities to submit questions throughout the session. We will have a Q&A towards the end. You can submit your questions anytime during the session, and we'll collect a small number of those and address them at the end. And hopefully we'll have a few minutes towards the end of the session to do that. The webinar is going to be recorded, and you'll receive a recording link directly to your inbox using the email address you've used today within the next couple of days. So you will be able to pause and play back at your own pleasure. We do webinars on a regular basis, loads of different topics, and if you have missed any before and you're interested, you can register for free on Liverpool Connect, which is our online networking platform for students and graduates. All of our webinars are recorded and then uploaded to this site, so you can access them whenever you like, and it's all free and it's all for you to use. So on to today's topic, careers in digital marketing. I imagine that many of you are going to be marketing students or maybe interested in going into marketing. It's something that hopefully is going to excite you. But we're going to talk about what is digital marketing, what is it like in day-to-day life if you work in digital marketing. So in this webinar, our graduate today, Tim Butler, who studied business economics here with us and graduated in '94. He's Director of Innovation Visual, and his colleague, Alex Genzel, are going to give you an insight into digital marketing. This webinar is going to take you through the basics of what digital marketing is, typical day in the life of a 20-something-year-old working in digital marketing. What's it all about? What kind of things do you do? What are the challenges? There's going to be some information and resources provided for you at the end, which hopefully will help you get the job that you desire in digital marketing and hopefully inspire you to take the next stages in your career planning process. As I say, do ask questions as we go along and towards the end. If you are watching this recording back at a later time and you have questions that aren't answered or covered, just drop me an email. I will try my best to either answer them or forward them directly to Tim and Alex, where they might be able to help you more effectively. So I'm just going to hand over to our presenters today. So bear with us whilst we just hand over, and our screen hopefully is going to magically change. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Hi,
Okay.
Tim. We can hear you, I think. Can you just say a little hello for us?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, perfect. Yeah, I can see your screen and I can hear you okay. If anyone does have any problems with connectivity or sound or anything like that, please just let me know. But I will hand you over, and I'll be sat in the background if anyone has any problems.
Great. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for the introduction. As Laura said, my name's Tim Butler. I'm a Director of Innovation Visual, and I've got one of my colleagues with me today, Alex, and I thought it'd be useful to have both myself and Alex on this webinar because, as you would have heard if you were paying attention, I actually graduated in '94, which makes me old in the world of digital marketing. Yet Alex has been in digital marketing for a handful of years since he graduated, so he can bring a much more recent perspective in terms of joining the digital marketing industry, and I'm going to give some perspective over what employers are looking for and business owners, to give you, I think, a bit of a steer as to why digital marketing might be a career that is interesting and fulfilling and potentially profitable for you to go into, and what you may expect, and hopefully dispel some of the myths potentially that you might have about what digital marketing actually means. So it's good to start with a definition, and there's lots of different definitions out there on the internet. We've picked this one from the Financial Times, which is pretty good and straightforward. And really, digital marketing is all around the use of digital technologies to get the message across. So marketing is about understanding and moving consumers in a direction that you want, getting them to buy the products that you want, use the services that you want. And it's got lots of different facets, from things like TV advertising and press advertising through to websites, and then no doubt you'll have seen advertising on Facebook and Google, places like that. And these digital technologies are evolving all the time, and this is what we're going to focus on today, how you can get into marketing using these digital technologies. What I would say is that Innovation Visual are very much a specialist digital marketing consultancy, and so what we see, do and help our clients with is one swathe of digital marketing. It's not the whole picture. There are different elements, and I've worked across some of them, so we should help you in terms of your understanding of the whole industry. But we're giving you an insight and a snapshot which should hopefully help you. But different companies in marketing have different approaches, and we're going to talk a little bit about both the agency landscape, so companies like ourselves that help multiple clients with their digital marketing, and also what's called in-house marketing, or client-side marketing, which is where you work in marketing within a single company. So it might be big companies like Procter & Gamble or PepsiCo working on those brands, or it might be a much smaller company, but you're working just for a single organization. So we're going to cover that today, and we're hopefully going to give you some useful information. At the end, there is a link to some web resources, as well as our LinkedIn profiles, that you can happily connect with both myself and Alex on LinkedIn and ask us questions directly on there. And as Laura said, this recording will be made available once you have watched it, so you can come back and review it. So I think the reason to look at digital marketing in terms of, is it a career for you, is about the rapid growth that digital marketing has seen. I've been in digital marketing since 1998, which shows again my age, but it's a very different industry than it was in 1998 when I started in digital marketing, and it has grown very rapidly. And what we're going to go on to now is really Alex taking you through some of the scale of the industry and that rapid growth, and that can make it a very exciting career to be involved with. So I'm going to hand over to Alex now.
Thanks, Tim. So yeah, I think it's really important to, if you want to understand how big digital marketing actually is, to see some statistics behind it. So as you can see there, 82% of adults in the UK using the internet on a daily basis. For me, I think it's more surprising that 18% don't. I'm pretty sure that all of you will probably access the internet daily, whether that's through uni or through your social media accounts. I'm sure all of us have sat there scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, doing all those sort of things. So the growth of digital users is massive. Then, of course, you've got the growth of the World Wide Web. So there's billions of websites out there at the moment, and this number is constantly growing. There's new websites cropping up all the time. And then what you've probably noticed when you're online is, say you've gone to a company like ASOS and you've been shopping around for something, you'll then be on another website and you'll see an ad with that particular t-shirt that you were looking at the day before. Well, somebody's paying for the privilege to show you that ad. And as you can see there, the amount of money that's being spent on digital ads is astronomical, and it's only set to grow further. So Google, we've all heard of Google. It's the biggest search engine in the world, definitely, and especially in the UK. As you can see there, 85% market share. So I think when you look at these numbers, it is just crazy. I mean, 64,000 search queries every second. That's how many Google handles. That is a ridiculous number. And again, this is a number that's just growing continuously. So we can look at the increase in Google searches. I think it's incredible how it's risen. And one of the most incredible stats is to see that from 2012 till 2016, the number of searches has almost doubled. So what are we going to be looking at by 2020? I think it just shows how important search engines are at the moment and how they're going to be in the future as well. I think it's important we mentioned there about Google's market share, but obviously it's not all about Google. It's just mostly about Google. As you can see there, Bing's obviously got 11% market share. Then we've got Yahoo, MSN, and DuckDuckGo. It's really going down there, but it shows how there's different search tools you can use out there. So as Tim mentioned, Innovation Visual, we're specialists in search marketing. So we've got to have a decent knowledge through these search engines and how to make the websites rank in them.
Yeah. So what do these numbers really mean in terms of you and your career? Looking at this massive growth and the fact that it's estimated that by 2020, which is just 2 years away, companies are going to spend 75% of their total marketing budget on digital marketing. What that's really saying is that all of the other channels that marketing incorporates, so TV, press magazines, radio, direct mail, those things are actually only going to be vying for 25% of companies' total marketing budget. So if you're looking at a career in marketing, do you want to be going into direct mail, which is, scratching around trying to get a share of 25% of budget? Or do you want to go into digital marketing, which is commanding by far the greatest spend? I mean, TV used to be the glamorous, the high end of marketing and advertising because of the budgets that it commanded. But now we're finding that brands are actually spending as much money on digital or more than they're spending on their TV advertising, both the actual creation of the TV adverts and the placement of those TV adverts. So what we're saying is, look at all this growth, look at how things are exploding in terms of the use of digital platforms like Google and search engines and Facebook, Instagram, and look at how companies are reacting to it. Now, if you're looking for a career in an industry that's exploding with both interest, innovation, and money, it makes sense to pay attention to digital marketing.
So I think a good way to put this into perspective is just to look at the global industry value of digital marketing right now, and that's at £734 billion, which probably doesn't really put it into perspective until you compare it to another industry like pharmaceuticals, which is huge. You think of all the companies producing pharmaceuticals, the demand for pharmaceuticals, and then you think that the marketing industry is 86% as large as the pharmaceutical industry. That just shows the amount of money that's going into it now. And obviously on the previous slide, we saw that by 2020, 75% of companies' digital marketing spend is going to be on digital marketing, but the numbers are pretty staggering now. So we've got an example here of WPP Group, who are obviously they buy a lot of agencies, essentially, a lot of different marketing agencies. So they deal with digital marketing, PR, and for December 2017, they posted their revenues for that year, and it was £15 billion. So these are not small numbers, these are big numbers, and the digital marketing industry right now is massive, and it's only going to continue to grow. So before I go into speaking a bit more about the roles, when I first heard digital marketing, I'm going to be honest, what I thought was my whole day would be spent looking at a screen like this. It was all going to be coding, and I wouldn't actually have a clue what was going on. Luckily, this isn't the case if you were worried and thought that that's what it was going to be like, because digital marketing, there's so much you can do in it. So we've just grouped a few there. So the creative side, the analytical side of it. But I think the main thing that I want to get across is that in digital marketing, you can really utilize people's different skills, characteristics, and strengths. There is definitely a role for you in digital marketing. So these are just a few of the roles. The thing that I'm trying to get across really is the variety, the diversity that comes under the digital marketing umbrella, basically. So I've put on there in the bottom left corner, web developer. I personally am not a web developer, that's not what I do, but I do a lot of the other things. So one of the things I do on a day-to-day basis would be SEO. So that stands for search engine optimization. So that is the process of optimizing a website to rank in search engines like Google and Bing. So this can be from searching for keywords that you want a particular website to rank for and then implementing them on the page. So for my day-to-day routine, SEO is a really big part of that. We've then obviously got things like, you've already seen the statistics on digital ad spend and how that's increasing. So that's to do with PPC. PPC stands for pay per click. So you've probably been on Google, search for a product and seen just above what we call the organic search results, a couple of results that have a small ad icon next to them. Now, somebody's paid for the privilege for their ad to be there. You click on that ad, somebody's going to pay for that click. So that's pay per click. Again, a huge industry. Paid search is going up and up and up, a good thing to be involved in. Email marketing, this isn't something I would say that I'm a huge expert in, but I've still run email marketing campaigns. You then look at social media. We've already seen how many people have at least one social media account. You've probably got more than that. And just think how important social media is. For a lot of brands, social media is their voice. It's an ability to talk to their consumers and to present a really good brand image. And then the other thing I do a lot of at the moment is content writing. Now, you've got to think about how Google works. When you type a search query into Google, Google is looking to return the best possible answer to that search query. And the only way that it can provide the best possible answer is if you've got the content to answer that query. So every single time you go on a page and you read something, somebody's obviously written that. Somebody's written that content to rank for that particular search query. So that is a really important part of digital marketing. Then you've obviously got other things on there like web analyst. A big part of digital marketing is the data that you have access to, and it's analyzing that and taking action off the back of that. So yeah, if you've obviously listened to that and there's a few that have interested you, I'd say go away, use Google and research a bit more about them, as we could probably talk forever about each individual job. But hopefully that's given you an insight into the variety of roles that are available. So one of the things as well that I sort of thought about digital marketing before I got into it was that you probably would be a bit like nerdy to be involved in digital marketing. Sorry, Tim, if that's offensive at all, but it turns out that really isn't the case. There's definitely a need for the human skills behind it. So you've got to be able to communicate, you've got to be able to speak to other people, to put your ideas across, to understand other people. You've got to work as a team. These are all really important. And obviously we've got on there problem solving. Now, I think that is a really, really big thing in digital marketing, because one of the things that you'll often come across is data. You get access to a lot of data. And for example, 1 month you could be working and your website's getting, I don't know, 2,000 visitors a month. And then next month it's only getting 1,000. Well, why is that? You've identified a problem. Now you've got to come up with a solution and solve that. So it's also, I think, important, Tim mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation about the client side and the agency side. So obviously Innovation Visual, we're on the agency side. We're providing marketing services to a number of different clients. And then you've obviously got your client side where you work for a company's marketing department and you're the client of an agency. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to just sort of explain a bit about the difference between them. So when you're on the client side, you've got a one brand focus. So if anybody read the bio to this, they'll know that I used to work for My Protein in their marketing department. So obviously when I worked there, we sometimes at My Protein, we did outsource certain things to agencies, but we had a big in-house marketing department. And obviously you have a one brand focus. You walk in and every single day you're focusing on improving that brand. Everything you do is driven towards that single brand. It's very, very different on the agency side because the key word there, I think, is diverse. Your workload is always going to be different. You're going to be working on a number of different brands. You work in a number of different industry sectors. So nothing is going to be the same. You know, I work on brands who are accountants. I work on stand-up paddle boards. I work on people that put in stuff for washrooms. It's a really diverse range of clients you're working with. I would also say the other thing is fast paced. It's going to be quick. You've obviously got to be working on lots of different clients, lots of different areas. So you've got to be quick and you've got to be efficient and manage your time well.
I think I just want to interject there. I think that you guys, as probably people who are still going through your degree and looking at this as a role, you don't actually need to make a commitment to one or other of client side or agency side at this point. I think it's interesting for you to understand what the differences are in order that when you go into a job interview or you're applying for jobs, you understand potentially the differences. The other thing I would say is we've made some quite significant generalizations here because I've seen client side work be extremely fast paced, whilst the typical thing is that it tends to be seen as slower paced. But I've definitely seen issues like internal politics and internal bureaucratic systems slow things down on client side, and agency side being much more nimble, much more, okay, we've got an idea, let's run with it and we'll get something out by the afternoon kind of thing. And as a marketer and doing digital marketing, I imagine that many of you will end up working both client side and agency side at different points in your lives and in your careers. And it's just, you'll find what suits you better at what point in your career, but you need to know really, I think that they are slightly different because of the fundamental thing that Alex said about either the single brand focus or the diverse range of clients that you work on. So it's a useful thing to know now, but you don't need to commit either way.
Yeah, well put. So one of the other things that I think is worth talking about is the comparison between a large and a small company. So you come out of uni with your first class honours or your 2-1 or your 2-2, and we'll probably stop there. And you've obviously going to be looking for jobs, and there's going to be jobs offered at large companies and small companies. So as Tim said before we go on to this is obviously more of a generalization. It's not true for all companies. Some large companies may operate like small companies and vice versa. But just on my sort of experiences, there's a few of the pros of working in a large company there. I think well-defined career path, I think that's probably true in most circumstances, is in you probably go in at an executive level and then you're maybe a senior executive and then a manager, and it's a bit more obvious of where you're going. Kudos, that's one I've put in there in the sense that if you work for a big company like, I don't know, Unilever or someone like that, people are going to have heard of it. You know, when you see people and they say, oh, what are you doing now? They're going to know what you're talking about. They're going to know who you're working for.
That also carries on to your CVs as well. So there is a swing towards large, well-known companies because people want to get that name on the CV. If you've got Procter & Gamble marketing on your CV, people recognise and they know the kind of level of person that you're at. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to be a bed of roses, or somebody that's worked at a big company is going to be certainly better than a small company. So there are the cons, which I'll let Alex take you through.
Yeah, so there's obviously cons to it. One of the things Tim actually picked up on was the slow decision-making process. This can actually be the case because you've all got your plan in place, and then maybe somebody more senior gets involved, and it can drag it out. And a project that could probably be done in an agency a lot quicker, maybe turns into months of sort of negotiation. There's obviously the seniority of it, that it's got to be signed off by somebody a lot higher in many cases, and sometimes it can be difficult to get hold of upper management. You know, especially when you come in as a executive, you know, you're a small fish in an ocean in a large company, and it can be difficult to get your voice heard. There's obviously other things in there, like you will probably get less responsibility. That can happen, but again, in some companies that might be very different, and you might get a lot of responsibility. I think the most important thing is that every company is different. These are just some things to think about. So then if we look at it from a small company perspective, it can be better for the learning and development, but this obviously depends on whether the company put a lot of emphasis into that. As we've mentioned, decisions can be made faster in a small company. One of the key things I've noticed in the difference between MyProtein and now working in Innovation Visual is the variety in your role. So when I was at MyProtein, I came down, I sat at my desk, and I knew what my day-to-day tasks would be. Innovation Visual is a lot more variety to it, and I like that personally. I like it to be different. You can never say it's boring. And I sort of at times maybe felt that it was a little bit sort of routine in a larger company, but that might just be my experiences. So one thing that I think we should compare is, in a larger company, it's obviously can sometimes be harder for your success to be noticed, which can be a pro in a small company. If you do something good, you know, I sit in the same room with Tim. If I've done something good, he can say like, oh, we've heard good feedback on that, well done. The other side of that is the fact that obviously if you make a mistake, it's pretty obvious that you've done it. Now, that's down as a con, that I wouldn't necessarily describe that as a bad thing. Sometimes, obviously, you're going to be young, you're coming out, you can't pretend that you know everything. You just don't know everything, and you're going to make mistakes. That's going to happen. And sometimes having to face them is actually the best approach, because then you learn from them. For example, there's things that I did in my previous job where I think, oh, I probably wouldn't have done that if I could do it again. But I didn't even know that was a mistake, because it's such a big company that it just becomes it just gets lost in the sort of the whole process. The other things, obviously, sometimes large companies can have the draw of offering benefits like health insurance, company car, things like that. Small companies don't always have that, but again, some do. It's just a case of looking.
Alex is just upset because we won't insure him on the company pool car here, you see.
Yeah, apparently I'm too young, but there you go.
So in terms of getting a job in digital marketing, we've actually got a blog post which was written a while ago about how to get a job in digital marketing. We're going to provide the URL again at the end, so you can have a look at that. And at the end of it, we also have got some references to some free online exams. And Alex was actually featured as a case study in the Prospects magazine, which I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with that, but it was all around his role here as an SEO executive. So you can read about that there. So in terms of getting a job, which is what your focus is going to be on, I'm just going to get Alex to talk about some of the qualifications, because you're doing a degree at the moment, and that is a massive qualification, and it doesn't matter what you hear about in the media, employers take notice of a good degree. And you know, a university like Liverpool has got a very good reputation, and having that piece of paper, it may just simply be a piece of paper, but it stands for an awful lot. However, in this competitive marketplace, you can do even better and add on to that degree that you're going to be getting.
So yeah, the thing I'd like to start with is if you're looking at this and you're thinking, what are these exams? You probably recognize the Google logo, but you might not know they have an Academy for Ads. Don't panic, because I had never heard of any of these. I certainly had not heard of HubSpot. I didn't know that you could do these sort of exams. The good news is that now you do know that you can do some of these exams, and the better news is that some of them are free. So you can do a Google AdWords exam. You can get that exam. It's all online. It's just a case of looking at the theory, and then it's a multiple choice. It's the same with HubSpot. HubSpot is really, really good for giving you an insight into inbound marketing, which is all about how people, when they come to your website, how they interact with it. Really would recommend that. And I think the key thing to get across here is if you have taken the time to get a qualification from Google and HubSpot, and that is on your CV, it's going to really improve it. And I also want to make the point, I've got on there, work for a company that invests in training. So now you know that these qualifications are available. You've gone out and got some of them to put on your CV. I think it's definitely worth bringing up in an interview, saying, well, what does your company do from a training perspective? Like, do you invest in training? What exams do you offer? Because at Innovation Visual, that was a really big selling point for me. I worked in a really big company but I didn't actually get any formal qualifications. And Tim's right in the sense that when you apply for a job, all people are going to look at is a piece of paper, your CV. And if you can have something that's going to stand out and make you look different to everybody else out there, that is really, really important. So you know about them, do them. And then when you're in your interview, definitely worth mentioning, what do you do to train your staff?
Yeah, it's a really key thing, the learning and the training. And if you're genuinely interested in making a career in digital marketing and making a difference and being successful, because remember, you can get a job, you can turn up 9 to 5 and you can go home again. But if you really want to make a difference, you want to get on, you want to get promoted, you want to get seen to be making a difference, you need to think about how you're going to do that. So I've been in the industry since '98, and things have changed a lot. So to give you an idea, when I started doing it, there was no Google AdWords. Only a few years ago was Instagram invented. This industry is changing very rapidly. You can look back on, as Laura said, the back catalogue of webinars, and we did a webinar last year about voice search. So if you take voice search as an example of digital marketing and the pace that it moves at, I think the Amazon Alexa was only actually announced something like 4 years ago, and voice search has exploded in such a massive way that Google are estimating that around 25% of all searches are going to take place using voice within a year or two. I mean, from a standing start to having a massive swathe of the market, this is how digital marketing operates. Things come in and they transform advertising and they transform the way of doing things. Because if we didn't have Instagram, how else would these brands be communicating to their audience and things? And it's only been around for a handful of years. So I can't even start to explain how much things have changed. I mean, I was selling websites effectively in the 2000s. And at that point, I was telling people that there were these new things called websites and that they would be really important for their business. And a lot of people thought that these things called websites were a newfangled thing that they didn't need to worry about because they'd carry on with print and with TV advertising. It's that different in just my career, and I'm not, I haven't gone grey yet, and not quite yet anyway. And this is how much it's changed. So we put these 3 images up on this slide. The center one is probably the most important one. That is all of our teams' qualifications and achievements. And we invest a lot of time in our staff and in our staff training. So we ask all of our staff to undertake at least 8 hours of training per month to improve their own skills, because it's helping them stay up to date, because it talks about how fast moving it is. And it also helps build their own CV and their own confidence to do their work. So when you go and talk to employers, you need to not only present that view of, well, I've already got off my backside and started looking at these things, but then the next part of the conversation is, what is it that you're going to help me achieve? And so the 2 awards that you can see on a windowsill on the left-hand picture, those awards, actually, we're really proud of those, because they're awards that the team have got through excellence in mobile advertising and YouTube advertising, through their training and through their achievement of actually engaging and delivering excellence through learning. And so I'm really, really proud of those. And then the award on the right hand side is actually an award that we got. We were one of just 30 agencies in the UK last year that were put on the Google Elevator program out of the 500 odd badged agencies that are within the Google Partner program. So that's an achievement that, again, we're very, very proud of, but it's come about through our investment in our staff to get people skilled. I can't stress enough how, because we move in such a fast-paced industry, you need to make sure that you're always learning and always developing your skills. And that's the same for me. I still take exams, I still do qualifications, and I've been in the industry 20 years. And that takes me nicely onto what employers are looking for. So I've been interviewing recently. We're taking on another person into the role, and we're also starting to look for candidates for internships over the summer. So if anybody really is interested in digital marketing, and maybe you live down in the Surrey, Hampshire, West Sussex area, then you can contact me separately, because we are looking for some interns over the summer and going forward. But if you're looking for a full-time job, what you need to have, you need to understand human behavior. Before any of the technical bits and pieces of how Facebook works, how Google works, and looking at numbers, you have to remember you're in marketing. And marketing is about changing human behavior. You currently buy this brand of product. We're going to hit you with adverts, and we're going to show you information to change that behavior so you buy our brand, not their brand. So it's about influencing human behavior, and without understanding and a desire to understand human behavior, it doesn't matter which element of digital marketing you want to go into, you're not going to do well without understanding. And then digital marketing is very data heavy, because we can measure everything, which makes it amazing, because in the old days of TV advertising, you used to spend X million pounds on showing your ads, and then you would allude to your client of, well, actually, when you spent that X million and we saw that small uptake in additional product sales, well, that's down to the TV. But you couldn't ever prove it, and you don't know whether it was the TV or whether it was the promotion or whether it was because of something going wrong with your rival's product. Data in digital marketing is absolutely key, and so you don't need to be a maths geek, but you need to make sure that you're not afraid of looking at numbers and being able to maybe put some behavioural things behind those numbers. And then in terms of, I think what most employers are looking for, certainly what we look at, is we look at the right attitude. And with our contacts we've got with Google, we also understand how people like Google, they also have a recruitment process and what they're looking for. And a common thread is the right attitude, because if you have the right attitude, we can train the skills. You might not know anything about search engine optimization. You might not know anything about paid search. We can train those things, but we can't train you to want to get up in the morning. We can't train you to want to be successful. We can't train you to be unlazy. And so employers are always looking at what is the candidate's attitude. So if you go into an interview and you look a bit scruffy and you're a bit late and you haven't done any preparation and you haven't looked at the website of the company you're interviewing for, you will fall down and you will fail, because they will see that as an attitude issue, not a skills issue. So you need to be very aware of that. And I think that follows nicely into determined and dedicated. As Alex says, we do a lot of problem solving here. We get people saying, okay, we've got a budget of X £1,000. We want you to achieve X number of sales with that. Go figure it out. And with those kind of problems, they're not easy to solve. That's why they've come to us to solve them. So you have to be determined. You can't just shrug your shoulders and say, do you know what? Can't figure it out. It doesn't work like that. So you need to be determined and you need to be dedicated. If you want to get ahead of the game, and not just as an individual, but actually as the agency or the business that you want to work for, you need to be dedicated. We don't necessarily work, 9 to 5, far from it. I think myself and Alex were probably still here at 7:15 last night doing some work because we had to get work out for a client. And that is the difference between the winners and losers, because in digital marketing, it's a competitive place. And so it's the hardworking as well as the clever that win the day. Alex has already mentioned this. It makes a difference. I can tell you, I look at CVs. The last vacancy that we advertised, we had not far off 100 people apply for it. And those people that got interviews showed a level of get up and go. And many of them had gone out of their way and they'd actually got themselves qualified outside of work. They didn't just complain and say, oh, well, my company never put me through this program, so I didn't do it. You want to get off your backside and you want to actually go out there. We've got some free resources, take some of those, and you will find you will get interviews over other candidates. The next thing is to get work experience. You've got experience. It does count. We want people in the industry that already know a bit, because it reduces the training load. And this also follows on to doing an internship. So as an employer, I recognise the importance of giving people the opportunity to learn about an industry, to see whether it's right for them before they actually commit to a job. So that's why we try and have space for internships. We pay our interns because we don't want to exploit them. And we don't see them as people just making, doing the dog's body work around the office. We want to give them a real experience. But what we're looking for people to do is potentially do a number of weeks. So, as an employer, somebody coming in and doing a week, they won't actually really do anything productive during that week, because most of that time will be spent learning how we do things, and then they'll leave. So if you want to do an internship, get in contact with those companies that are close by you. Phone up the managing director, send an email to the marketing director, get in contact with them over LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm doing this degree, I'm really interested in digital marketing. Is there any chance that I can come and work with you? And say for a number of weeks. You've got a lot of time off usually in summer, but even at your other shutdown holiday periods, you've got more than just a few days. Dedicate it. Yeah, it is nice to travel, and I remember between my first and second years, I spent a lot of the time that summer in Canada traveling, and it was a great experience. But don't just think that your holidays are about you having a great time. You want to use those wisely. And if you can get a good few weeks work experience in a company, it's going to help open other doors. And you never know, there might be the company that offers you a job after you graduate. So it's important that you do these extra things because there's a lot of people out there wanting these good jobs.
So obviously, the thing that we're trying to get across is, well, we're saying you should work in digital marketing. Well, why should you? Obviously, we've touched on the fact it's a growing industry. I think this is really key, because you want to join an industry which is going in the right direction, which is expanding and it's got opportunity. There's obviously great versatility in the role. It's constantly evolving. Tim mentioned about voice search. That is transforming the way that we're looking at optimizing websites and things like that. And 5 years down the line, there's going to be some other sort of technology we don't even know about yet. It is constantly evolving. And then what I've put in bold there, the digital skills gap, I think this is really key, because digital skills are in demand. And if something is in demand, it means that you can demand greater wages, you can progress faster. And this is all going towards having a fulfilling career, which is something that I really feel I'm on track for now. And that's why if anybody ever speaks to me about digital marketing, I say, do it. You really should do it.
So I'd just like to add to that. I work now with another 9 agency heads. It's a follow-on program from Google Elevator. So these 9 agencies, they're based all around the country. So in fact, I can probably introduce you to agencies, from Nottingham down to London and various other places, as far afield as one of the guys operates an agency out of Brussels. But what is common across all of these agencies is we want more good people. So we do end up having to pay higher wages. So that's the wage growth. But if you're good in terms of your attitude and your skills, you can command good wages. And this is a real growth. I think that whilst the finance industry may be pre-financial meltdown was the place where people went to earn really big money, I think that digital marketing is an opportunity for very good wages, perhaps not $1 million bonuses, but there's certainly a great opportunity there to make a very good living and also make a very fulfilled living by doing interesting things day in, day out. So hopefully we've got a bit of time for questions, and I don't know what questions have come through or whether some of you have fallen asleep. Hopefully not. But Laura, do you want to do the question moderating?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for that. That was really interesting. I think you definitely covered some of the key areas that when I speak to graduates and students as well, they're always really interested in. Particularly around things like Google Academy and HubSpot and Bing and things like that. All those extra courses I think are really useful.
We've got those, by the way. I was going to say the link you can see on the page now to that blog post, the Get Better Job in Digital Marketing. That's where we've got links to all of those free online resources. So if people want to jot that down, visit our website, they'll see links to all of those ones that we've already mentioned.
Fantastic. We do have one question actually, and it's actually a sort of a common one that we face. Do you think there's a need to get a master's in digital marketing or digitalization, or do you think actually getting maybe experience would be a better investment of time and money?
I suppose I should answer that as the employer. I would say that it would be better to get good experience. It doesn't mean that it's pointless getting a master's in there, but I think there seems to be quite a trend in rolling straight from a graduate, a BA, BSc, straight into a master's at the moment, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think potentially you'd be better off coming out, doing a few years, getting some really great experience and understanding it better, and then if you still wanted to do a master's, going back into education and learning more then. I mean, I think education and university is great, and my wife's actually doing a PhD at the moment. So, I think that the further courses are brilliant, but getting that experience first is what I think employers want to look for.
Fantastic, thank you. If we do have any more questions, we do have a few more minutes, so please do keep them coming in. Let's have a look in our question box. If you want to get into digital marketing, is it essential to have work related to the field, or can you have experience in kind of other areas and can you use the transferable skills, or do you think you're better off going for digital marketing type internships?
if you can get a digital marketing internship or any kind of marketing internship, that is better. However, if somebody came to me and they said, I've spent the summer working in a coffee shop, but during that time, I've also done this exam and this, HubSpot exam, and I've done a Google exam because I really want to get into digital marketing, I would give them an interview, because I would see that as real, get up and go to try and get into the industry. So relevant experience always better, but it's not a be all and end all in terms of opening the doors. And you need to open the doors well. There's some stuff on that blog post about things like how to present your CV and writing letters. If you want to work for me, please don't send me a CV and an application letter that's got spelling mistakes and errors, or you haven't been bothered to look up what my name is as the managing director. It doesn't bode well. There's some simple things that make a difference a lot of the time, and I'm sure careers advisors are always saying about that, but I can tell you it's very easy to bin a CV because it's got mistakes in it when you've got 100 to sit through on a day.
Yeah, exactly. Very much agree with that. We have another question come through. I think this might be from possibly a postgraduate student. Do you think the industry is more for youngsters or more experienced professionals? Is having digital skills more focused for young people, or would you say the industry is well accepting in terms of older professionals who want to get into the sector?
That's a really interesting one, actually, because I joke here about sending Alex and Emily to California to pick up on the latest digital trends, because I'm already too old to use WhatsApp and I'm only 40 something. So there is slightly an industry bias to thinking that young is good. However, I don't think that's necessarily the case, and we've got a diverse range of people working in the business because it's about doing a good job. And I think that you can, if you haven't been in the industry but you're older and you can learn and you're prepared to learn and you're prepared to evolve and adapt, I don't see a reason why it shouldn't be something for not so young people, because after all, Alex talked about the point about content. If you're a great writer and you write great content and you understand your audience and you know how to move your audience, I don't care whether you're 18 or 85. If you're good at what you do in an area, I'll give you a job. And I think many digital marketing agencies would follow that same trend. So yeah, it's an industry for everybody, even though it looks like it's an industry just for young people.
Fantastic, thank you. That's all the questions that have come in so far. If we do have any that come in, particularly after people have watched the recording, I'll try and forward them on as best as I can. But just to finish, I wonder if I could maybe get a top tip from both of you. If there's one thing that our students and recent grads listening should take away from this, what would it be?
Shall I jump on that one first? Yeah. I would say for me that obviously it wasn't long ago I was going through the recruitment process, and I think the hardest thing is when you put your CV together, you sort of look at it and you think, what makes me different? You've come out of uni, you've got your degree, that's great, but what sets you apart? And I think doing some of those exams, that would be my key tip. It really doesn't take long, but it will really set your CV up for something different, and it will also give you something to speak about in the interview, something to talk about and show that you're really passionate about it. So I would say go out, get an exam, get a digital marketing recognised qualification on your CV. They're free, that you haven't got anything to lose. That would be my top tip.
Fantastic, thank you.
If you want my top tip on that one, I think would be get started by being different. So, invest in, if you haven't got any experience, invest in making your CV look great. I think Alex's tip is great. I've been contacted directly by undergraduates looking for an internship, and I always give them the time of day, and invariably I've actually interviewed and either have given them internships or we're planning to, because they got off their backside, they found me, they found the agency, they looked up and they did their homework, and they either sent a direct email to me, or they messaged me on LinkedIn, or they picked up the phone and they said, "Hey Tim, I'd really like to get into digital marketing." And you would be surprised, with given how competitive it is, how few people make unsolicited approaches, and the unsolicited approaches work. I know from the other agency heads that if somebody phones them up who wants a job and says, "Hey, I want a job," they're usually impressed enough to go, "Okay, come in and see me, we'll have a chat about it." And I've actually even got somebody an interview and then a job at another agency because of where they were located. They contacted me, I was impressed, and I put them in touch with another agency head, and they ended up going and working there. So get out there and pick up the phone, send an email, message them on LinkedIn, but stand out from the crowd, stand out. And once you've got in there, it gets easier and easier.
Fantastic. There's some great tips, great pieces of advice. Thank you very much to both of you. And I think from my own personal experience, having picked up the phone and sent random emails to people saying, "Can I have work experience," etc., it does take a little bit of perseverance sometimes, but if you have the confidence to go and do it, you might actually get a positive response. Like you said, you have nothing to lose, and those other exams and courses are free. So particularly, if we do have first and second year students who are watching this, it's a great use of your time in the sort of winter and summer vacations to spend a bit of time doing these. Particularly, if you're not a marketing student, maybe you're studying English or economics or business management, and you want to focus on marketing, it's definitely a great way to make yourself distinctive. So thank you very much. We really appreciate all of that. And as I say, if you do fancy doing an internship with Tim and Alex, please, make the opportunity and do contact them. What a great opportunity that might be as well. So, as I say, use the resources on the Innovation Visual website as well, and all the free online exams and links on there. And if you do have any questions, get in touch. But thank you so much to Tim and Alex, for both of you, for giving up your time for free today to talk about that. We're getting in some nice little thank you comments now as well from students, which is great. But yeah, if we do have any other questions, do get in touch. As I say, we will send the recording out. And if you do get a chance to watch the previous recording on voice search marketing, which Tim did with us just before Christmas time, it was really interesting, particularly if you're interested in search engine optimization as well. It's quite unusual. I've seen the adverts for those echo dots and things like that, and I think it really does help you understand how it works. So thank you very much. We'll send the recording out, and potentially we'll have other webinars in the future from Tim and Alex as well. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you very much, Tim and Alex, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks very much. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.